Hmm. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm-mm.
Lines are drawn, and once again, somebody say, wait, be patient. If they knew how long it would be before all people could truly hear freedom ring, I wonder which end of that moral arc would they choose. I wonder if more would have walked in his shoes. This is what revolution looks like. You gotta get in and stay in this fight. You've got to find a way to get in the way. Speak out every day. Freedom riders or letter writers, do what you can, just shine your light brighter. Somebody called him a saint among men, a founding father, an icon, a legend. Ordinary people with such extraordinary vision in a country so young are pressed on every single side but not crushed, saying in God, love, and justice we trust.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the National John Lewis Day of Action. Today is the day we've been waiting and waiting and planning and planning and preparing and preparing. And now it is time for the National John Lewis Day of Action. We welcome everyone. My name is Attorney Darrell Jones. I'm the board chair of the Transformative Justice Coalition, and we are so excited that you're joining us for this new kickoff of the National Day of Action, National John Lewis Day of Action. Let me begin by expressing our condolences to the life that was lost in Pennsylvania over the past couple of days, and as well as certainly our prayers and heartfelt wishes of healing for those that were injured in the community that was injured over the past couple of days. But today, July the 17th, is the day that Congressman John Lewis passed away. And as we know, John Lewis certainly was the icon of voting rights for America and the icon for democracy. And I tell you, we take this day, and the John Lewis and the Lewis family has always spoken with us to take this day not as a day of mourning, the loss of John Lewis, but a day of celebration of what he stood for and recommitment to the fight for voting rights and the move for justice, the move for peace, the move for inclusivity, the move for diversity, the move for democracy and the commitment for democracy. That's why we will. That's why today there will be over 85 or so National Day of Actions all across America. We encourage you to go to the Mobilize app and find one that's near you. So with that, I am the board chair of the Transformative Justice Coalition. We have some of our host partners that have been working alongside with us, I guess hand in glove, arm in arm, leg in leg, shoulder to shoulder, however you want to put it, working together to be certain that we're able to live up to the dream and start working toward this multiracial, inclusive, and diverse democracy that Congressman John Lewis envisioned. I'd first like to bring up for some thoughts and greetings and celebratory thoughts. Allison Pulliam, who is the with the Declaration for American Democracy. Allison.
Thank you so much, Daryl, and hello, everyone. It's so great to be here with you all. My name is Allison Pulliam, and I'm the co-director for the Declaration for American Democracy. We are a coalition of more than about 260 organizations that are working together to realize the promise of a multiracial democracy where all of our voices are heard, all of our votes are counted, by passing the Freedom to Vote Act, by passing the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, the Native American Voting Rights Act, and DC Statehood. We are so happy to be here. We want to thank all of our other partners. We've been just thrilled to be in partnership with Barbara and with Black Voters Matter and League of Women Voters and the Justice Coalition and everyone on this event. And we're here today because we believe in sweeping federal democracy reform. Our coalition members happen to work on many issues important to Americans, from gun violence prevention, advancing racial justice, climate change, repro justice. But what they all understand is that in order to see progress on the issues that we all care about, our democracy must be strong. It must be working, and it must be working for all of us. And we have seen continued attempts to thwart our right to vote on the federal level. And moreover, extremist politicians in states across the country have introduced or passed over 400 anti-voter laws, most of which specifically target Black, Indigenous, and other communities of color, young voters, and new Americans. So sweeping federal democracy legislation is the only way to really stop the crisis that is unfolding in our state legislatures across the country. The Freedom to Vote Act, much of which was authored by Congressman John Lewis, would help protect and strengthen to freedom to vote. It would knock down the anti-voter laws that have been passed nationwide, and it would stop partisan gerrymandering and get big money out of our politics. The John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act would restore federal government's power to prevent these bills from happening in the first place. As you probably remember, the Voting Rights Act that had stood since like 1965 was basically gutted by the Supreme Court. The John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act would at least like get us back to where we were, and then the Freedom to Vote Act would even help expand even more. And the Native American Voting Rights Act would ensure voting access on tribal lands. Right now, there is an attack on Native Americans and those living on tribal lands, and their ability to be able to participate in the democratic process. And DC Statehood would provide at least 600,000 people plus of Washington, D.C., with the same rights as everybody else, to help elect their own elected leaders. So the future of our democracy is on the line. We can't afford to stay silent. We will have to continue to, as our friend John Lewis said, make good trouble. We must call on our elected leaders to move our country forward and to help us realize the true promise of American democracy with a set of federal standards and safeguards for all voters. And by passing these bills, it is very critical to get us there. And so these are all cornerstone bills that will help uphold our democracy and the legacy of John Lewis and the legacy of what he was working forward. So again, I'm so happy to be here. Happy to see this turnout and for this day. And the Declaration for American Democracy is, again, just thrilled to be in community with all these wonderful partners. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Allison. And, we cannot say it enough that, it is so important. It is so important that Congress passed the Freedom to Vote Act that will just level the playing field with regards to how people have access and are able to vote. That Congress passed the Native American Voting Rights Advancement Act, because there's special issues that those that are in Native territories are presented with, and hurdles that they need to overcome in order to be able to access the vote. and we call it the sword and the shield, the shield of the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act to stop stuff so that it doesn't whittle away at our voting rights across the country. And the ultimate act, and Allison put it so succinctly, the ultimate act of voter suppression is denying DC statehood. DC should have that right to vote. Let me tell you, folks, we are so excited to have with us as one of our partners. Every time we do one of these vigils, every time we do one of these national actions, whenever we're involved like that, we're able to call upon public citizen and Jonah Minkoff-Zern. Jonah.
Thanks so much, Daryl. It is such an honor to be here today with you all, to be with the League of Women Voters, Black Voters Matter, Transformative Justice Coalition, Declaration for American Democracy, and such a powerful, broad coalition of dozens of organizations on this significant day of action, honoring the 4-year anniversary of John Lewis's death. We are going to continue to carry on good trouble to demand action, to demand federal action that will restore the ability to vote for millions of Americans who are having our votes suppressed, and will expand vote and access to people of DC who have had their vote denied. We are going to stand together in the meantime to make sure that people are able to vote this November, despite their efforts to suppress our vote, despite their passing laws to make it harder to assist people with their ballots, to make it so people can't pass out water to people standing in line, to decrease early voting and vote by mail, and do whatever they can to put barriers in front of us from voting, because they want to stop us. They want to stop our voices. They're scared of our voices. They're scared of a multiracial, multi-generational democracy. And we are at a key moment in history where we either are moving towards an autocracy with the Supreme Court's immunity ruling, with Project 2025 that weaponizes the government in the way that DeSantis has done in Florida, where the DOJ will be used instead of to prosecute civil rights violations in voting, will be used to prosecute people for trying to express their vote, like DeSantis has done in Florida, and rounding people up and trying to and arresting them in the middle of the night for going out and voting. We cannot let our nation move in that direction, and we're speaking out today to make sure that we are moving in a positive direction, that these bills represent in a vision of a multiracial, multi-generational democracy. And I just want to, before I end, I just want to share a picture. I just came back from a rally here in Syracuse, New York, from our event, and it was really beautiful and powerful, all the people that turned up on a hot summer day here in New York for this event. And it just shows that this movement is nationwide, and we are standing together and building this movement that will win in the end, because the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. So proud to be standing with you all, making some good trouble today.
Thank you so much, Jonah. And I tell you, if they're in Syracuse, New York, and it's hot, wow, because we think of Syracuse, New York as always being cool. This John Lewis Day, this National Day of Action, is bringing the heat across the country. And let me tell you, the reason that we do it at this point across the country, because members of Congress right now are at home. They're at their home districts. So we're not going to take this to Washington, to their offices where they can comfortably sit. We're taking it to their home districts, to where they are, to their representative, to their people, to their constituents, so that they can see their constituents standing up saying, pass these 4 acts. Let's make this democracy what it can be. And I tell you, Barbara, when I think of where we would go across this country, we just came back from Las Vegas, Nevada. When I think of where we would go when we were in North Carolina, we were in South Carolina, when we were in Florida, when we were in Louisiana, when we were in Mississippi, who was standing beside us, going to the people, talking to the people, saying, we need to be certain that we're protected and our right to vote is there? It's no other than our brothers and sisters from the organization of Black Voters Matter. April Albright.
I'm so excited to be here in this space, because when I look across the screen, I just know that every person on this screen is fighting to build a multicultural democracy where everyone's voice is heard and resources are shared in a way that all of our communities can thrive. And what I'm thinking about today on this very special day honoring, our beloved, Brother John Lewis, I'm thinking about movements, right? I'm thinking that in addition to voting, which is a part of a movement, the other way that change has happened in this country is when people raise their voices in the way that we're going to raise our voices today. When people get in good trouble, right? Whether it is being arrested, which I know many people on the screen help to participate in to make sure that these acts that we're talking about today, got passed or voted on even. We think about movements and how many people, right, who couldn't even vote, still went and protested in the women's suffrage movement, right, in the abolitionist movement, right, in the civil rights movement. Many of the individuals who participated couldn't even vote yet, but nevertheless raised their voices in a way that generated a movement that brought this important legislation. And so it's in that spirit that today, all around this country, we have people yet again raising their voices, of all different races, of all different ages, of all different faiths, no matter who you love, saying that we want a democracy that sees us. And just as what our brother Lewis did in Selma helped to generate one of the most monumental legislations that this country has ever seen and the world has ever seen, we are going to win. Our voices today and beyond are going to get all of these acts to make sure that our indigenous brothers and sisters can vote and have their rights protected on their tribal land, that DC indeed becomes a state, that the government again gets in the business of what's happening at the local level, and that voting rights is expanded to the place where all of us in this country, no matter where you live, will have the right to early vote, will have access to voter registration in a way that they've never seen before, and also money, dark money, that oftentimes dictates what happens in this country, be removed from this process, and lines will be drawn in a way that expands political representation for us all. So I am so excited to be a part of this movement. And I am so excited that today we're yet again going to raise the voice to say we have not forgotten. We may not be getting arrested, but we have not forgotten that our movement is a just and righteous movement, and we will prevail. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, April. Thank you for those inspiring words. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for what Black Voters Matters does and stands for. We appreciate you so much, so much. Folks, when we're out there in the trenches with the Transformative Justice Coalition and Black Voters Matter and some of the other groups that we're in partnership with, one of the things that we know is we're all over the country and we're dealing with all kinds of issues. And, one of the things that we oftentimes come across is questions with regards to the restoration of rights for individuals that were previously incarcerated or previously occurs a felony or some court-imposed sanction that limits their ability to vote. But wherever we are in the United States of America, whatever the issue is, and whatever the hamlet, the town, the city, whatever the state is, wherever we are, the one thing that we know is that when it's time to get the tennis shoes or the boots onto the ground and to get moving and we need some help, we can turn to the League of Women Voters, and they are there. They don't ask questions. There's no hemming. There's no hawing. There's no I'll think about it. It's like, no. They are full chest, all chest out, all in, everything up, chin up, chest out. Let's go. Let's get it. We're so pleased to welcome Alma Kuthri from the League of Women Voters. Alma.
Thank you and good afternoon, good troublemakers. I mean, just like it has been said, this room just fills me with so much joy. And I am so honored to be here with all of you. Again, my name is Alma Kuberti. I'm the Chief of Programs and the Interim CEO of the League of Women Voters. And it is an honor to stand here today in the spirit of our late voting and civil rights hero, Congressman John Lewis. He was a staunch defender of voting rights, and he once said, "Your vote is precious, almost sacred. It is the most powerful nonviolent tool we have to create a more perfect union." And today his words remain true and serve as a reminder that our vote is our power. Because voting is not just a right, it is a powerful act of shaping the future. At the League, our mission is to protect the rights of voters and expand access for those who have been left out of the democratic process, like our sisters and brothers in Washington, D.C., who still to this day are denied representation in Congress. And we know we cannot do this alone. We need each and every one of us to take action. We must turn up and turn out in partnership and allyship. And we urgently need Congress to act. We need Congress to protect our voting rights through the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. Today, as you've heard, I know that there are hundreds of League leaders joining in solidarity at more than 85 events across the country to honor the legacy of our beloved Congressman Lewis. And doing it by doing what we do best, getting to work. We are ensuring that all of us are ready to vote this November, making our voting plans ahead of time, and reaching out to our families and friends to ensure that they are also doing the same. Together, we safeguard the integrity of our democracy by uplifting our shared American values of freedom, equality, justice, and peace. And as the events of this past weekend still weigh heavily in our minds, we must continue to condemn all forms of political violence unequivocally. We must choose to express our political differences grounded in peace and respect for one another. There is no place for violence in American politics. And together, we pledge to continue to fight the good fight in good company, knowing that so much is at stake. From bodily autonomy to climate change to the very foundation of our democracy, we must ensure that the right to vote is neither overlooked nor underestimated. We walk in the footsteps of giants who paved the way for us, and we are laying the groundwork for those who will come after us. Our democracy is worth fighting for, it's worth waiting for, and we must protect it at all costs. Passing the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act is a critical step in the right direction to grow and strengthen a truly representative democracy for the people, by the people, for all people. So thank you so much, and I will be joining you in the actions today.
All right. Thank you so much, Alma. We love the League of Women Voters. And we know that when you say you will be joining us, you will be joining us. And that's not you singular, that's you, the League, all across the country will be joining us. Folks, get out there, get to that mobilize link, find out where the nearest action is in your state, in your hamlet, in your county, in your town, and get to it. Be a part of it. You do not want to miss these actions. Well, I tell you, I get all worked up because, I just love the people that are here leading the organizations and what their organizations do. But, one of the aspects that brings most of the joy to me is dealing with our Gen Z and our young voters. People always say, Gen Z's not this, Gen Z's not that, Gen Z's not the other. And I tell them, Barbara already knows, April already knows what I'm going to say. You say Gen Z's don't vote, I say, you see those Confederate statutes coming down? That's Gen Z. You say Gen Z's don't vote, I say, you see the gun control legislation that was passed? That's Gen Z. So don't say that. Do you see environmental issues being on the table? That's Gen Z. Gen Z does act. Gen Z does vote. Gen Z does accomplish. I tell you what, if you think young people don't care, well, you know what? You're just wrong. You are just wrong. You're just absolutely wrong. And you know what? One of the things that people say all the time, I always hear them say it about our young folk that are out here being active. They say, you know what? They got next. Well, you know what? They have a saying. We ain't got next. We got now. And that's what they're doing. Ashley Shannon, come talk to us, Ashley.
In the words of Daryl Jones, We ain't got next. We got now. Hello, everyone. My name is Ashley Shannon, and I have the honor and privilege of being one of the representatives of the Gen Z and Millennial voters and a TJC 2022 fellow. I always, when I get asked to be on these platforms, I always sit back and I reflect on the first day I met TJC, and Attorney Arnwine and Attorney Jones asked us a particular question, and it sparked my mind. And that question is, why do Gen Z and millennials not vote? And around the room, you heard people say, oh, I don't vote because I lost faith in politicians, because our voice doesn't matter, because nothing politicians want us to do ever works out, because they never pull through for us, so why would we show up for them, right? And it had me sit back and think. We know the outcome when we don't vote, but what happens when we do? When we don't vote, we see what happens. We lose a say over our bodies. We don't have a nonpartisan Supreme Court that protects us. We lose our democracy. Our children are not safe in schools anymore. People are not safe on the streets anymore. We don't have faith in our education system, and so on and so on. But what happens when we do vote? See, when we do vote, young people have a say in the matter. Our voices are heard, and we play a major role in outcomes such as in 2020 when we showed up to the polls. When we do vote, we receive our education. When we do vote, our kids are protected. We do vote, people who are incarcerated have their rights restored, right? And they don't lose out on those voting rights either. When we do vote, we protect our democracy. And that is why I show up as a Gen Z and millennial voter, because I don't want to see a world where my children are not safe, where they are not protected, and I have to question what's next. Every single day, it seems like we're turning on the TV and the Supreme Court is saying, oh, once again, the Supreme Court is taking away this. We're losing this. And I don't want to live in a world like that in the future. So I choose to wake up every day and carry on the legacy of John Lewis and every single individual that came before him and after him. I choose not to just stay in good trouble, but necessary trouble. Because it is necessary we protect the democracy we have while we still have it. And if I have not sparked a fire in you yet to meet me at the polls, I know the rest of these Gen Z and millennials will do just that. So remember, it is necessary we carry on these legacies and we keep this legacy going for all of our children and our children's children after us.
Thank you so much, Ashley. You know, you almost bring a tear to my eye listening to you lay all that out. Folks, you've got to be inspired. You've got to be inspired. You've got to get out. You got to go to that Mobilize app. You can go to tjcoalition.org and take a look there. You can, and from there you can find the Mobilize link for the action that's in your neighborhood, that's in your community. You know, listening to all that Ashley was saying with regards to stimulating, exciting, and getting the Gen Z voters out and involved and understanding the reasons why they should be involved and the issues that are being presented to them, it made me think, Barbara, my goodness, what else could we do to inspire Gen Z to be able to vote? I know what it is. I know exactly what it is. We need to go to an HBCU and hear from an HBCU on why they need to get out and vote. Brother Bryson Powers. Bryson, come talk from Alabama State University.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I am Bryson Powers, and just like Ashley, I am a TJC alum, a proud TJC alum. And I can say that TJC truly sparked that interest in activism for me. I am also the proud founder of my community service organization, Project Smiles, which has now added a voter education and a voter registration branch to the community service organization. And I'm so proud of that. And just like Alma said earlier, the great John Lewis once said, your vote is precious, almost sacred. Y'all, that is one of the most important things that has stuck with me. Growing up in a generation where a lot of people don't understand or appreciate the power of their vote truly angers me, but it also makes me want to fight harder. I know that instead of us as a generation throwing in the towel and just throwing our hands up, that we must roll up our sleeves and truly get to work. In a generation where the media is intentionally misinforming and disinforming us, I know that we must fight the good fight to reach them and get in that good trouble to teach them while we are also doing it. The same people that are trying to mislead my generation are some of the same people who are trying to take the freedoms away from my generation. But y'all, let me also be clear. We know my generation, generations before us, and the generation that are coming after us, we know and we understand that personal freedoms are on the ballot in 2024. Criminal justice reform is on the ballot in 2024. Maternal mortality is on the ballot in 2024. Reproductive rights are on the ballot in 2024. Educational rights are on the ballot in 2024. Civil rights are on the ballot in 2024. And let's not be mistaken or misunderstood. We know that we must rally and mobilize and understand that democracy is truly on the ballot in 2024. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bryson. Thank you so much. And I'll add one thing that that also is on that ballot: funding for HBCU colleges and campuses across this country, because that is on the ballot for 2024. So, Bryson, thank you so much for laying that out. But you know what? We talk about why Gen Z should vote, why Gen Z must vote. What if Gen Z doesn't vote? Well, you know what? I thought that we should take it up another notch. Take it up another notch, because that's what we do around here. We just take it up. We just take it up. We just take it up. And so let's take it up a notch, and let's go to a teacher. Let's go to a minister. Let's go to an activist. Let's go to somebody in Chicago. Let's go to Ed Ward. Ed.
Hi, everybody. It's good to be here. Can you hear me? Great. Let me just start off by saying that Ashley and Bryson I didn't think I could be more inspired, but I've been more inspired. Attorney Shannon, you have always been amazing. So much appreciated. Bryce, same to you. Much appreciated. And thank you so much for your power and stepping in your power. And when I hear you speak, and when I hear you talk about why it's necessary to vote, I could recall a conversation I recently had about last week with one of the folks that I work with. And he said, he's about 30 years old. He says, I've never cast the ballot. He says, I'm not even registered to vote. And the TJC fellow in me looked at him and said, how dare you? Then, however, I really encouraged him. I said, it's time for you to get registered to vote. He said, I don't know how. Well, let's pull up this link right here and let's get you registered to vote. Why is it necessary to get registered to vote? Why is it necessary to wield a voting power? Power. What is power? Power is the skillful navigation of your collective influence. As Bryce said, there are so many things on the ballot. And if you don't vote now, then you sacrifice all of those things. And I think it's important for each of us to understand that when you look at folks like me, you look at folks like Attorney Shannon, you look at folks like Bryson, one thing that we have in common is that we don't have the complexion for protection. And the voting ballot and the ballots prove that, right? What they're doing in the Supreme Court proves that. Where democracy stands right now proves that, right? And so that's why it's necessary to stand up and fight. And I like to say this: voting rights are not an issue that's primarily there in southern states. Voting rights and voter disenfranchisement exists across the country. Here in Chicago, one of the things that we're experiencing now is really a failure to fund public education, a failure to protect our young people from the dangers of not having green schools, right? And so we have crumbling infrastructure in schools. We have lead in the waters, asbestos in the walls. We have crumbling infrastructure. And then we have those who we elected to represent us, all on the left, right? That talk about why there is no money. They talk about why they can't do anything for us. And so this issue is not a partisan issue. This issue is an issue of rights, is an issue of why we have to stand up and do what is absolutely necessary for our young people, right? Because if we don't, the question is asked often, if not now, when? If not us, then who? And I ask you the question, if not now, then when? When will we actually stand up, fight, and then win? Because when we fight, when we collectively fight, we win. And that's why I love that TJC is a nonpartisan organization, because we're not just fighting the right. we're also fighting those who are asleep on the left about waking up to make sure that each of us have those rights, make sure that those protections exist, not just in the Supreme Court, not just in the White House, not just in Congress, but in educational institutions, in our churches, in our communities, in our homes, to make sure we are doing what is right and what is necessary. So when John Lewis says it is almost sacred, I go a step further and say it is in fact sacred, that we do what must be done when it comes to voting, when it comes to advocating for our people. A lot of times there are those who come after us. They like to blame a lot of us, right? Young Gen Z and millennial voters. They like to blame us, just the Gen Z and millennial, generations, right, for not doing what they're supposed to do. But what I've seen in this generation, the generation of Gen Z and young millennials, is that we care. We need the representation. We want the representation, but we want to be sure and certain that as we move forward, those who come after us don't have to experience the same discriminatory practices that we've had to experience, that our parents had to experience, that our grandparents had to experience, and for the Supreme Court to push back and to take us back before the John Lewis Voting Rights Act is a problem. When you talk about voter disenfranchisement, when you talk about changing the zoning or changing the districts so that you don't have the right to vote, again, it does not just exist in the South. It also exists in the North, which is why, and in the Midwest, which is why it's necessary for us to stand up and fight all around, right? And I'll end with this. There's a quote that I like to say, which says, first, they came for the communists, and I did nothing. Then they came for the Jews, and I did nothing. Then they came for, and I'm paraphrasing, then they came for the women, and I did nothing. Then they came for the African Americans, and I did nothing. Then they came for the Latino community, and I did nothing. Then they came for me, and there was nobody left to stand up for me. What are you doing for justice? You've got to ask yourself that question. What are you doing for justice? What have you done for justice? And if the answer to that question is nothing, I strongly urge you to get involved all the more. We must do what must be done, not just get in good trouble, but as Ashley Shannon said, necessary trouble. And that's why I proudly consider myself a troublemaker, because we have to get in trouble and stay in good trouble to make sure that those who cause us these discriminatory practices and these discrepancies in our systems and our democracy don't rest. Right? They call them Sleepy Joe, but listen, we can't allow anybody else to sleep, right? Because you cannot rest as long as there is disenfranchisement across the country. You cannot rest as long as women don't have access to their control of their own bodies. You cannot rest as long as our young people are being miseducated. You cannot rest as long as our communities are divested, and you cannot rest as long as we, the people, are demanding things must be done for the betterment of the people. So if you want rest, do what must be done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Edward Ward. Thank you so much, Edward Ward. Folks, you know, our Gen Zs have just been laying it out for you as to why you need to Google Mobilize John Lewis, and then you can find that action that's in your community and get to it. You know, all of our panelists, all of our Gen Zs have been just encouraging you to get involved. You know, I don't know what else to do. This is the kickoff day. This is it. This is it. You know, we really need you to come and have your voice heard so that your congressional representatives can see and can hear that democracy and the vote and all of these issues of access to voting is extremely important. And undergirding it all, supporting it all, the ultimate sign, I always say, the ultimate sign of voter suppression is DC statehood. We need to kick it off of us. We need to make DC a state and make it happen. And we need you to go to the representatives, go to Mobilize John Lewis, just Google it, and then you go ahead and you'll find the action that's near you so you can have your voice heard as Edward Ward was speaking. We turn now, because Edward, I think, Barbara put it out perfectly when he said, if not us, then who? And if not now, then when? Barbara Arnwine, you're the president and the founder of the Transformative Justice Coalition. You're the president emeritus of the Lewis Committee for Civil Rights Under Law. You know, I always tell people if the Supreme Court would just listen to you, we'd be so much further along. But my goodness, but you're also one of the people that's out there in the streets talking to the people. being certain that people understand and get the understand what's happening and what can happen. That's why we refer to you as the Queen Mother of Election Protection. Barbara Arwan, talk to us.
All right now. Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and good morning to our West Coast. Hey, we are here. It is July 17th, John Lewis National Day of Action and Candlelight Vigils. I've been getting messages from people like Belage Robinson, everybody, and others who's one of our Gen Z fellows saying happy John Lewis Day because they're ready. And all over the country, I've been getting calls. In fact, while we've been on this one, I've been getting calls from Florida, from Georgia. People are busy. They're having these events, and they're going to rock it throughout the nation all day long. All day long. Let's do this. And as we all know, we're just getting started. Oh, get ready for us. I want to thank you, Daryl, for your incredible, bold, intellectual, and creative and visionary leadership. There's no one like you. Thank you for what you do every single day. I want to thank our partners. Oh, you heard our partners. Come on now. You know how strong and amazing they are. You have no idea how generous they are, how hardworking they are, how sacrificial they are. Thank you to our partners. Thank you to all those interns at Public Citizen who got those banners, got all the materials out to people. People sending us their pictures with their Protect Our Vote signs, sending us all their pictures with their buttons that they are wearing. We are so grateful to every single one of those interns and to Declaration for Democracy and all of the work that's been done, not only to fund the events and to help people be able to be a part of this, but also the work to make sure that we raise some funds to get this done. And thank you, April and Black Voters Matters and everyone who contributed to the grants that we were able to send out. Just thank you for being amazing partners, amazing leaders. We know that if people were well, that we would have a representative from the leadership conference. We're sorry they could not be here. We want to give love and nothing but the best wishes for people throughout the country who are facing all kinds of issues this day, that we are there with you, that we are part of a United States. Nothing more is important than that word than united. I want to also thank the host of these events. Whoa! They've been out there, Daryl, everybody, planning things. I got calls, people saying, I'm waiting for my chairs to be delivered. People said, the police just got here and I'm talking with them. People calling me saying, oh, I got folks getting ready to march. People are ready because this democracy does not belong to the elected officials. This democracy belongs to the people. And the people are rising today. They're rising just like 16-year-old John Lewis did when he wrote Dr. Martin Luther King and said, how I become a freedom fighter. They are rising like John Lewis did. Think about it, Daryl, when he was 23 and spoke at that march on Washington. And they were trying to give him the hook because he was breaking the word. Oh, think about him, everybody. At 25 on the Pettus Bridge. 25. I want everybody to think about that kind of leadership, that kind of courage, that kind of boldness, that kind of energy and creativity and just commitment to making sure that our democracy would live up to its creed, to its professed promise, that it would do the work. Thank you, for John Lewis. That's why we gathered today. And I got to say a word because our Gen Zs took us and our young millennials, they took us to church and back. Whoa, thank you so much, Ashley, Bryson, Edward. Oh, what a word. But you know what, folks? throughout the country, you just got a sampling. There are hundreds, thousands of these amazing, young, beautiful people. TJC and Black Voters Matter, we're proud to train them, aren't we, April? Every year we do this training, folks, because we know how important it is. We invest in our young people. We say, don't spend a dime. We're going to pay you to be trained. We're going to invest in you so that your leadership can infuse and enrich our nation, just like John Lewis. Oh, we got this because we know that it's our work that's going to make the difference, all of our collective work. So if not us, who? If not now, when? When? Now is the time for a real democracy. Come on, folks. You know, I am so glad that today, Daryl from Cedar's Shining Sea, our people are rising. They are rising from New Hampshire. They're rising in California. They're rising in Oregon. They're rising all over this nation, down in Florida. No, they got so many events in Florida. It's just shocking. They're rising throughout the Midwest. They're rising deep south. They're not giving up. They're rising in the heart of Arizona. They're rising everywhere, including in Milwaukee. Come on now. We know the work has to be done. We're not about to turn off the faucet of justice. We're going to fight until we win. We also want to say to those over 86 actions in, I believe now 30 states, including the mighty District of Columbia, how grateful we are to all of the hosts for all of that work. Think about it. There are events in all of the voter suppression states. Our folks are rising in Virginia, North Carolina. They're rising in Ohio, Georgia, South Carolina, Florida, Texas, Wisconsin, Missouri, Arizona, Alabama, and everywhere else you can think of. Name it. And people are rising. Just thank you for everything you're doing. Thank you, DC Mayor Muriel Browser, for putting on that program this evening that we're all going to tune into and be attended to as we attend all our local events. We're going to light up the skies tonight with our Candlelight Vigils. Get ready from sea to side. They're going to see, if you're on a spaceship, they're going to see us, right? Because we're going to be lined up so much because it's time to show the path forward. You can't move in darkness. You got to move in light and be, transparent and open. So we are so grateful to all of you. And think about this. If you ever wonder why we need modern freedom fighters to lead the way right now, think about this. John Lewis passed in 2020. In those 4 years, what has happened to our country? I want you to think about it. Not only are we facing an epidemic of voter suppression, in those 4 years, guess what else has been happening? The rise of book bans. What else has been happening? We've been dealing with anti-quote woke legislation. What else has been happening? Vicious, evil attacks on the LGBTQIA community. What else has been happening? The Supreme Court passing the Dobbs decision, attacking women's reproductive rights. What else has happened since he's passed? There's been this incredible array of states that have been uniting under the MAGA umbrella. And what are they doing? They're dismantling diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, firing 60 people in Florida, firing 60 people in Texas. All of this evil, fighting to have, these MAGA state attorney generals fighting to say that the Voting Rights Act should not have a private right of action, saying that Section 2 that makes racial discrimination in voting should be unconstitutional. That's what they're doing with your tax money. That's why we rise up. We're also rising because in the time since his passing, there's been a refusal by many states to teach Black history. Are you kidding me? There's been racial partisan gerrymandering out of whack. There's been the Project 2025 and Trump Project, they call it 47, that have been threatening the whole basis of our democracy. And as we said, there's an out of control Supreme Court. Not only is it unethical, it's corrupt. I mean, how do you take $4.7 million? $4.7 million as a Supreme Court justice sitting from people who have cases before your court. How do you run around with an upside down flag signaling your quote alliance with January 6th rioters, and then sit up there and issue an opinion basically vindicating them? Come on, folks. We need to understand what the democracy is that we're fighting for, how we must fight for a better and just democracy. And that also, lastly, Daryl, it breaks my heart to see the Grants Pass case and the criminalization of the homeless. That cannot happen, people. We need the homeless to vote. We're going to register more people who are homeless than you ever heard of. Right, Alma? We're going to do that. We're going to make sure that their voices and their strength is heard around the country. Don't ever forget, all of you watching. Don't ever forget, all of you organizing, that you are the change that this nation desperately needs. That this day is only one step on our long march towards justice. That we need you in the days to come in our fight for an inclusive and robust and just democracy. We need you to become voting rights champions. We need you to give rise to the polls. We need you to register voters and turn them out, mobilize them. We need you to become poll workers. August 6th, it's National Poll Worker Day. Become poll workers. We need you to help us with our 9, now 10 state concert series. We'll talk about that in the future. We need to give substance and help to the homeless. We need everybody to contact your members of Congress and urge passage of the Freedom to Vote Act, the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, the Native American Voting Rights Act, DC Statehood. We need you to become part of election protection. We need you to join us around the nation today. Join us in this quest, in this fight for justice. Join us this evening for the next national broadcast at 6:00 p.m., where we will be talking about and watching the brilliant program in DC. For those who cannot get to local events, where there aren't local events, we want you to watch and have watch parties and do everything you can. And most importantly, look for our next national mobilization. This is not the end. This is only the beginning. Good trouble, 2024. John Lewis' legacy lives on. Thank you all. Thank you, Daryl.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you for those inspiring words, always inspiring words coming from the iconic Barbara Arnwine. Folks, as Barbara indicated, if you're in the DMV, as we call it, the District of Maryland and Virginia, we encourage you at 5:30 this evening to join us over at the John Wilson Building at 1350 Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest, where we'll be holding a John Lewis National Day of Action that will be hosted by DC Mayor Muriel Bowser. And we're so appreciative of the mayor's office for their participation and for their coordination of this particular event. Folks, this is July the 17th. This is a day of recommitment. Recommitting yourself to those principles of democracy, recommitting yourself to what it means, to be involved in the democratic process, what it means to be involved in the move to create a multiracial, more just society. We encourage you to go to Google Mobilize John Lewis, and then be able to pull up the information with regards to the John Lewis Day of Action that's in your area. We encourage you to attend one of those events. We want to thank not only all of the panelists that are here and all the panelist organizations that are here, because we're so thankful for each of them. We're also thankful for all of their staffs, because we know their staffs are behind it, working so hard. A big appreciation to their staffs, a big appreciation to the volunteers. I know Public Citizen have all these volunteers that are out there doing work. We appreciate the work of all those volunteers, and I would be remiss if I did not thank and recognize the hardest working staff I know of in America, and that's the staff of the Transformative Justice Coalition. Yolanda Cole, all you do, Janita Dawkins, all you do, Lynn Whitfield, all you do. Thank you, TJC staff. Folks, at the beginning of this, you heard the Call Them In song by Chris Matthews. Chris Matthews is a local artist that has now gone national. The Call Them In song that you heard is significant because Chris Matthews wrote that song with us in mind, with the movement in mind, with calling people to the forefront. Get off the sidewalk, get into the street, call them in, get involved. Get involved, get involved. Please go to Mobilize John Lewis and get involved in one of these good trouble actions going on in your neighborhood. Folks, enjoy yourselves, be safe, have fun, and what else? Make some good trouble. Chris Matthews, take us home.
Everyone can see the Chris Matthews song live on our social media. Zoom has blocked us from showing it in this respect. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Even though she gave us permission.
Battle lines are drawn, and once again, somebody saying, wait, be patient. If they knew how long it would be before all people could truly hear freedom ring. I wonder which end of that moral arc would they choose. I wonder if more would have walked in his shoes. This is what revolution looks like. You gotta get in and then stay in this fight. You've got to find a way to get in the way. Speak out every day. Freedom riders or letter writers, do what you can, just shine your light brighter. Somebody called him a saint among men, a founding father, an icon, a legend. Ordinary people with such extraordinary vision in a country so young, are pressed on every single side but not crushed, saying in God, love and justice we trust. This is what revolution looks like. You gotta get in and then stay in this fight. You got to find a way to get in the way. Speak out every day. Freedom riders or letter writers, do what you can, just shine your light brighter. Make good trouble every chance you get. Eyes on the prize, we're not finished yet. Don't tolerate injustice, my friends. Call them out, but then call them in. If you see something that's not right, not fair, stand up and say we can do better. He said, I may not be with you when we reach the other side, so let the power of love everlasting be your guide. 'Cause this is what revolution looks like. You gotta get in, then stay in this fight. This is what revolution looks like. Get in and then stay in this fight. You've got to find a way to get in the way. Speak out every day. Freedom riders or letter writers, you can just shine your light bright.